Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be with you today for my first book review. I am reviewing The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And can we just take a second to appreciate this beautiful cover art? Like, it's already a 10 by default. So before I get started, I want to tell you guys a story about this book and how I even arrived to this video. Last year, I shared with a special friend of mine that I wanted to start a YouTube channel doing book reviews and vlogging about my life, and I received this book for Christmas as a vote of confidence. And so I actually read this book almost a year ago, but I still wanted to make sure that this was my first book review because I wanted to honor that vote of confidence. I think it's super special when not only does somebody believe in you, but they prove it by supporting what you want to do, affirming that you're fully capable of doing it. So I appreciate this. And that is why and how The Water Dancer became my first book review on YouTube. So, okay. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I'm thirsty because I love geeking out over reading books. Who doesn't? Okay. So, the first thing I'm going to do is a super quick summary of the book. So, the setting of the book is a slave plantation called Lockless in Virginia, and the main character of the book is Hiram, or nickname Hi. Hiram is a product of relations between the slave master, Mr. Walker, and his mom, Rose. Now, Hiram's mother, Rose, is sold away from him when he was a child, and so even though Hiram can literally remember everything else that he ever has read or seen, that he has ever seen or heard, he cannot seem to remember his mother. Trying to remember his mother is too painful for him. So his mother sold away. He works on this plantation, and in the beginning of the book, in part 1, is pretty much a coming of age story, and we see this camaraderie between Hiram and his brother Maynard. Now, Maynard is not a product of a slave and slave master. Maynard is actually Mr. and Mrs. Walker's son, and so we constantly see Hiram envy Maynard almost because he's able to be loved correctly due to his pedigree, basically. So we see Hiram grow up. He develops a love interest whose name is Sophia. Him and Sophia have a beautiful love story, and they eventually try to run away, and they're caught. And once they're caught, they're separated. And Hiram doesn't know at that point if Sophia is alive or dead. All he knows is he's heartbroken and distraught, and he feels totally responsible for her downfall. Hiram, on the other hand, goes on this interesting magical journey where he collects some unlikely allies along the way. So he ends up at a plantation also in Virginia. And the gag is that this plantation is actually kind of like a shell corp or like an undercover station on the Underground Railroad. And because Hiram has special powers, they wanted to use Hiram on this plantation to conduct people throughout the Underground Railroad. So if I haven't said this already, Hiram actually has a superpower in this book, and his superpower is conduction or teleportation. So he's able to basically close his eyes, like I Dream of Jeannie, close his eyes and transport himself and other people to a different place. And so he goes there to this other plantation, and they train him on how to be smart enough to navigate the Underground Railroad and save people. He goes to live even further up north in Baltimore for a little while as a freeman and connects with people there, and gets further training on saving people from slavery. They actually call it saving people from the coffin of slavery in this book. And there's even a celebrity guest appearance in this book, because Harriet Tubman makes a cameo in this book, and Harriet Tubman in this book also has the same magic power as Hiram. She also can conduct people um, using some power within her. I'll say that. So by the end of the story, after Hiram is done, you know, trying to save the world and free all the slaves, he actually sacrifices his freedom and goes back to the Lockless plantation, where he wants to basically see what happened to Sophia and also say goodbye to his dying father. And once his father actually does die, Hiram stays at the Lockless plantation and runs it. He runs the plantation again as another like shell corp / underground railroad station. And so actually all the people that live there are technically free, but they pretend to be slaves so that they can help other people gain their freedom. So that's a super quick, brief synopsis of the book. And now I want to talk about my favorite thing about the book. And I have my notes here because remember I read this over a year ago. Well, almost a year ago. But my favorite thing about the book was all the different motifs and reoccurring themes that I saw throughout the book that not only ring true to life today, but forced me to take a hard look at myself in some areas. And I love to read books that challenge me. I hope that doesn't sound too self-absorbed, but I really don't see the point in investing time in something that's not impacting me or making me a better person or educating me about something. So hopefully everybody reads books that benefits them in some way. And this is just not like, you know, all fun and games. But if it is, like, I get it. So yes, let's talk about reoccurring themes. So the first reoccurring theme in this book is, in order to progress, you have to face your fears. And sometimes facing your fears means facing yourself, dealing with your own internal turmoil so that you can be better. So remember how I said that Hiram has a superpower of conduction. The only way Hiram can access this superpower is to meditate on his mother and to envision her dancing in his mind, right? Hence the title, The Water Dancer. And not only remembering his mother, but remembering how he failed Sophia and other just really uncomfortable things that he's had to deal with that he would otherwise run away from if he didn't need to use his power of conduction. So I needed that. I needed a kick in my butt. Even though it took me a year after reading about this superhero that faced his fears and saved thousands of people, it still took me almost a year to face my fear of being on camera and actually start this YouTube channel. So I really appreciated that part of the book. I also appreciated that this book, in passing, gave a nod to colorism and the impact of colorism. There's a time in the book where Hiram is having a conversation with Kessia, who was a young lady who grew up at the plantation and somehow, again, got sold off further south, but ended up being freed through the Underground Railroad. And really quick, I'm just going to read a conversation between Hiram and Kessia. And so the first speaker is going to be Kessia. So she says to Hiram, "They used to say your daddy was a white man." "He was," I said. That was Hiram. "Didn't save you, did it?" "No, don't save none of us." So the reason I like that exchange between Hiram and Kessia is because it shows that they have more in common than not. I think even now in society, and why I kind of like that they had this conversation, there's this internal battle even amongst Black people about skin color and which color is the right color versus the wrong color. So the next reoccurring theme in this book that also broke my heart a little bit was Hiram's longing for the love of his father. It's so heartbreaking to watch over and over again. His inner thoughts about why his father didn't love him the same way he loved Maynard. And Maynard was Hiram's white brother that ended up drowning to death when they were younger. And Hiram was superior to Maynard in every way imaginable. But Hiram was black. And so his father, no matter how much he longed for his love and affection, was never going to be able to provide that for him. And at first I thought that Hiram had Stockholm syndrome, because I'm like, why do you even care about this man? He's so evil. He's a slave master. But actually, now that I think about it, I don't think he may not even meet the threshold for Stockholm syndrome. And I don't have a degree in social psychology or nothing like that, so maybe I'm not even qualified to say that. But what I think it was, more than that, was Hiram was human, and children long for the love of their parents, no matter what their parents do. So that was another thing I saw time and time again in the book. And kind of coupled with that again was just the raw fact that he was superior to his brother in every way. And people didn't expect slaves to be of any value. And so when they were, it was a shock. So I also have a quote that goes along with that theme as well. And basically here, he's expressing how sad and upset his father must feel that the best child that he made was a black one, basically. So it says, I was certain my father saw things as I did, and I wonder how wrong it must have felt to see the best of you emerge in this way, in the place where you didn't expect, indeed the place your whole world depends on it never appearing. So basically he's saying in order for slavery to be propped up by his father and other people like his father, they have to have low expectations for black people. And he's marveling or wondering how his father must feel having the best parts of him represented in his black son. So I thought that that was interesting. Yes. So yeah, that's that. Let's see. I was trying to hold my space with my hands, y'all, and I think I lost my spot in a couple places. Oh my goodness. Okay. The next thing. This quote right here took me out the game. Like, and when I tell you I witness this in my life all the time, I'm going to read the quote first and then we're going to talk about it. So it says, power makes slaves of masters. I'm going to read that one more time. Power makes slaves of masters. Have you ever worked for someone or with someone or around someone that was so obsessed with being the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, that it made them stupid, basically? Like, it just made them, it worked completely against everything that they were trying to accomplish. And so the reason I believe this quote is here is because the Lockless Plantation, aka Mr. Walker, he was actually having a lot of money trouble. He was going broke. And there were a lot of things in the book that he, even though he was going broke, he just refused to let go of. He refused to let go of his image as part of the quality people in society. And if you read the book, you'll understand what I mean by the quality people in society. So yeah, that thirst for power and that hunger to maintain his position, it just wasn't smart. It just wasn't smart. And so this is something that I will have that in my mind whenever I'm in a leadership position. I would do well to remember that power can make a slave out of me. That if I'm not careful and if I don't have humility, I can end up in a world of trouble, and I can end up doing a disservice not only to myself, but to the people that I work with and around. So guys, servant leadership is the best leadership. Remember that. Another thing I liked about this book, Y'all are gonna think I'm obsessed with this book, and I kind of am. I know I read it a long time ago, but it made such an impact on me, and I think that Ta-Nehisi is such a beautiful writer. I'm gonna read the quote and then I'm gonna discuss. There is always a part of us that does not want to win, wants to stay down in the low and familiar. You guys, I can think of so many seasons in my life where I just wanted to stay down in the low and familiar, like this book is saying. I can remember so many times in my life when I was comfortable. And when I tell you, it did not do me any good. It did not do me any good. And furthermore, I don't know about you, but I don't want my obituary to say, oh, Linnea was so comfortable. That's the most underwhelming thing that anybody can say about me. I want them to say that I was always striving for something, like striving to be a better person, striving to be a better daughter, a better cousin, a better friend, you know, that I was always moving forward in some way. I don't want people describing me as somebody that was so comfortable. That's whack. Whackity whack whack. Don't be comfortable. Be better. So, if you're religious, you'll be able to appreciate this quote and why I like it. And I promise I'm coming to the end of these themes, y'all. But there is so much in this book. And for as much as I'm describing to you, I still left out a whole lot. So the next quote is, man made us slaves, but God willed us free. So I consider myself a Christian, and instead of saying man made us slaves, how I repeat that quote to myself is, sin makes me a slave, but God wills me free. And to me, what sin is anything that is keeping me from being my most radiant, most righteous self. So whatever it is in my life that I'm holding on to that's keeping me from being who and where I want to be, I feel like it's sin. Like, and we don't even have to get legalistic about it. I feel like it's that simple. And so there's like one theme that I've been avoiding until the end. I want to make sure I cover them all though. Pull out my handy dandy notes, my handy dandy notebook. Maybe I should get me a blue notebook so I can act like I'm Blue's Clues out here. Okay, that was corny, but I'm corny. So let's see. Something else I wrote down was the white savior complex, but I don't really want to talk about that. Who cares? I also wrote down survival of the fittest. And if you read the book and you see how Hiram and other people on the Underground Railroad are able to survive and thrive, you'll know why I put down survival of the fittest. So I don't think I need to go into that. One thing that I want to talk about that I almost forgot before I get to the last thing is there were times in this book where Hiram, I think, was suicidal. And it made me really sad to watch him be that way. And yeah, I don't really. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find a quote where he was suicidal. So give me 1 second. This is maybe not the best example, but I think it illustrates the point. It says, a man is blooming inside me. Georgie and I cannot shackle him. He knows too much. He's seen too much. He has to get out, this man, or he cannot live. I swear I fear what is coming. I fear my own hands. So he said things like this a few times throughout the book. Like, basically, I'm afraid of what I'm going to do to myself if I don't get free. What is encouraging, I'll say this, because talking about suicide is not fun. It's a very difficult topic. And if you're feeling suicidal, I hope that you'll find someone to talk to that can support you and affirm for you who you are and how special you are. What's encouraging about this book is that Hiram denied his urge to end his life. And he ended up saving hundreds of thousands of people. Okay, so the last theme in the book before we skedaddle is how basically the poor whites in this story didn't realize their station in life. They assumed that just because they were white, they were better than the slaves. And I think we're seeing that, especially in this political climate, in some instances, where people think just because they are not black, they are superior, that they're of some kind of better quality. And I think this book, The Water Dancer, makes it very, very clear that that's a joke and that's ignorant. Because to the rich people, right, to the quality people in this book, the poor whites were just as good as slaves. And so I do have a quote for that as well. Here's one instance where that's true. It says, the low whites, men such as Harlan, were tolerated publicly by the quality, but spurned in private. Their names were spat out at banquets, their children mocked in parlors, their wives and daughters seduced and discarded. They were a degraded and downtrodden nation, enduring the boot of the quality, solely for the right to put a boot of their own to the task. So basically, like, this is talking about how the rich people, the quality people, spit out their names, have relations with their daughters and discard them. Basically, how the rich people have their boots on the necks of the poor whites, and the poor whites put up with it just so they can put their boots on the necks of the slaves. And it's like, are y'all crazy? Like, y'all don't realize that to them, you know, if you listen to Jay-Z's album 444, you know what I want to say. But I'm not going to put that on the internet. But if you walk out here, you know what I'm trying to say. In this book, the poor whites were mistaken, and they were self-important because nobody else thought that they were important. So, at that, I digress. I hope you enjoyed this book review, and I hope I will see you for the next one. Like, comment, and subscribe. And please share this video with someone else who likes to read. Also, if you have any books that you recommend for me, please, please, please put them below. I'm getting ready to read a book called How to Be Anti-Racist by Ibram somebody. I'm reading that for a book club that I'm in. Well, actually, it's not a book club, but it's a club that has turned into us reading books together. So if I think that's a good book, I will review that next. I suspect that I'm not really the target audience for that book, but I may be able to learn something from it nonetheless. But anyway, I digress. I give Ta-Nehisi Coates, The Water Dancer, a 10 out of 10. And there was this teenager at the church I used to go to. She would always say, like, oh, it's a 10 out of 10 recommend. So and that stuck in my head. Every time I think about saying that, I think about her. But yes, so Ta-Nehisi Coates, The Water Dancer, 10 out of 10 recommend. This book is timeless from my perspective. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.